Okay, I feel slightly better. You know, nose is still a little bit stuffy, but I feel like I should be able to read for at least 30 minutes. So knock on wood, let's see how it goes. If you like what you are going to see, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And chapter 1 for today is called 5. So I'm pretty sure we're going to find out the true significance behind NEPHIS' warning when she said 5, remember 5. And looks like Ellie woke up. Oh my god, wait, Ellie! Watch out the cables! We're still in our intro! Wait. Hey, hi, good morning. Can I read a little bit of Shadow Slave? I'm sorry. Here, look this way so the light's not shining in your face. Here, look, right here. Chapter 43 is called 5. The shadows stared at Sunny and Sunny stared at the shadows. After all, the situation became a bit awkward. Sunny shifted a little, then hesitantly asked, are you guys not going to do anything? The shadows did not react, remaining as motionless and quiet as they had been from the start. As a matter of fact, he didn't seem to move or show any signs of life at all. In that regard, they were even more lifeless than his echo had been here in the Sea of Soul. Sunny scratched his head. His initial fear was slowly disappearing. At first, he was scared that out of his wits, more so from being startled from the feeling of an actual threat. This was his soul sea. After all, very few times could harm him here. Very few things could harm him here. Just like how you guys can barely hear Ellie barking, right? Hi, what's up? Can I read a little bit more? Sunny was pretty sure that the shadow was not capable of doing anything, let alone attacking him. They seemed more like manifestations of some weird... Oh, not his shadow. All the shadows in his soul sea. Got it. They seemed more like I forgot where we were. They seemed more like manifestations of some weird fact of his aspect rather than actual beings. As such, they weren't dangerous. The question was, why did the shadows suddenly appear? After briefly thinking about it, Sunny came to the conclusion that they did not actually appear per se. Instead, they were always here. It's just that he had not been able to see them. But now that his aspect evolved, now he can see them. But now with his eyes changed by the strange transformation he had gone through, he could just... Ellie. I'm sorry, guys. Bear with me for one more minute. I want to see if I ignore the barking, she'll just go take a nap or something. Bear with him for one more minute. But now with his eyes changed by the strange transformation he had gone through, he could just like how... He could... Right, Ellie? Just like he could see the diamond string inside the puppeteer shroud. Right, Ellie? Speaking of the puppeteer shroud, Ellie... Glancing at the silent shadows one last time to make sure that they would not lunge at him. Right, Sunny? Right, Ellie? Sunny frowned with suspicion and turned away. His back instantly began to dingle. Just think of them as fashionable pieces of furniture. Right, Ellie? Who says soul seas don't need a touch of interior design? We're gonna start decorating. Somewhat consoled, he walked closer to the shining spheres that represented memories, and some of the puppeteer's shroud. One of the spheres floated down and slowly dimmed, revealing the armor within. Just like before, Sunny could see 5 glowing nexuses, and five glowing nexuses and countless strings permeating the gray fabric. They resembled miniature stars assembling into constellation. The shroud came from a tyrant, which was a class of nightmare creatures with 5 soul cores, 5th tier memory. 5th nexus makes sense. For some reason, the number 5 moved something in his mind. Sunny scrawled, not understanding. The feeling of unease suddenly appeared out of nowhere and disrupted the flow of his thoughts. Right, Ellie? Trying to concentrate on the tasks, Ellie. He summoned the runes, describing the puppeteer shroud. The familiar description appeared in the air around the armor. Memory, puppeteer shroud. Memory rank, awakened. Memory tier 5. Memory type, armor. Memory description, a worm of doubt. The identification of the tier was new. It seemed that the spell decided to be helpful. And incorporated Sunny's new understanding of the inner working of the memories into its interface. Tiers was not something the humans had learned from the spell. Instead, it was just an improvised way of differentiating memories of different power levels within the same rank. It was often unreliable and outright wrong, but it was better than nothing. But in that case of Sunny, the information was 100% true. He could confirm with his own 2 eyes just by counting the number of core remnants inside a memory. He could even understand their purpose. That might be extremely useful. However, his attention was drawn to something else. At the very bottom of the description, a new cluster of runes appeared. Memory enhancements, enhanced durability, doubtless. Sunny smiled. This was what he was hoping for. Previously, he had only been able to intuitively sense the special qualities of his memories, with no way to learn their true nature and limits except for the trial and error approach. And using the method during the battle was not conducive to survival. Now, however, he concentrated on one of the enhancements. Doubtless, enhancement description provides the wearer with a small amount of protection against mind attacks. Good to know, the amount was small because it was just an awakened memory, since an enhanced durability was self-explanatory. Sunny dismissed the puppeteer's shroud and summoned the silver bell. The small bell had only one spark of light, which was much less bright than the ones inside the puppeteer's shroud, and at that, studying the runes did not show anything interesting. It was a tier 1 dormant memory with a single enhancement that increased the range at which the ringing could be heard to several kilometers. Finally, it was time to take a look at the Midnight Shroud. The graceful blade appeared in front of Sunny in all of the austere beauty. Memory, Midnight Shard, memory rank awakened, memory tier 3. Memory description, forged from the shard of a fallen star, this stalwart blade is a firm and unyielding. It favors those who are willing to fight to the last drop of blood and knows no surrender. Memory enhancements, unbroken. Enhancement description, this blade refuses to be broken and thus is durable. Okay, so it's going to be with us for a long time. Beyond reason, it will greatly enhance the powers of its wielders when they are close to death, however, only if the wielder is unwilling to surrender. Sunny sighed, simultaneously satisfied and disappointed, and now he knew how to access the well of power that hid in the deepest parts of his heart when the Midnight Shard was in hand. However, it could only be done when he was at the death's door. Ellie. I'm trying to not give in. Hold up, I'm trying to not give in and give her attention right away. However, it could only be done when he was at the death's door, wounded and minutes away from perishing. It could either save him from a dire situation or create an opportunity for a very heroic last stand. We don't want that to happen. Sunny did not care for heroics, so the second option did not seem appealing at all. Good. Right, Ellie? Right? The first one was much more useful, correct, Ellie? But only in the case of him screwing up terribly and getting himself in a lethal amount of trouble. I'm sorry, we're just going to do this for one chapter and see if Ellie stops. Ellie, hi, I love you, but we're reading. I'm sorry. I'll give you attention in a bit. We're literally we're like 5-6 minutes recording, girl. I'm almost done. In other words, it could only be used if he failed in normal battles with special qualities of Midnight Shard. I have spoiled her way too much, man. I have spoiled her a lot. Damn, she always wants my attention now. In other words, it can only be used if he failed in normal battles with special qualities of Midnight Shard were of no use at all. Hi, Ellie. A pity, but an ace in the sleeve in case of things really go south is not bad either. Done with his memories, Sunny was ready to learn of his new attributes he had received. Considering how much pain he had gone through to acquire the damn thing, he had pretty high expectations. Looking for the cluster of runes representing his attributes, Sunny focused attention and carefully read their names. There were 5 attributes: Fated, Mark of Divinity, Child of Shadows, and the new one, Blood Weave. Huh. Child of Shadows and Mark of Divinity and Fated, those 3 were given to him at the end of the first nightmare, if I remember. But Sunny was about to summon the description of the Blood Weave, but then stopped. Something was not right. Something did not add up. The feeling of unease from before had returned, right, Ellie? Now much stronger. When did he first feel it? For some reason, his thoughts were slow or murky. The feeling of unease from before had returned, not much stronger. When did he first feel it? For some reason, his thoughts were slow and murky. He felt a strong... Wait, the cables, Ellie, hold up. He felt a strong inclination to forget all about the strange feeling of and concentrate on something else. But this time, he did not. It was when I was studying the Puppeteer's Shroud, and it was concentrated to the number 5. 5. What was there to the number 5? With his attention beginning to wane, Sunny bit his lip, causing drops of blood to roll down. A burst of pain circled in his mind for a moment. There were 5 attributes: Fated, Mark of Divinity, Child of Shadows, and Blood Weave. What? There were 5 attributes, but he... Oh, wait a sec. What's the missing one? But I didn't even realize that. But he only counted 4. Wait, Ellie. Oh, my God. You're going crazy. Hold up. But he only counted 4. Bewildered, Sunny stared at the runes. He was sure that there was a 5th attribute, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't read its name. Ellie, hold up. His name and description every time... I'm sorry, guys. It's only this chapter. I'm sorry. Every time his gaze fell on the runes corresponding to the 5th attribute, he would find himself distracted, his memory wiped clean of any mention of it. Just remembering that there were 5 attributes was incredibly hard. Clenching his teeth, Sunny tried to keep his... Ellie, please, wait. Sunny tried to keep his concentration, not allowing himself to be distracted. Ellie, I'm trying to not be distracted. Oh my god, I'm going crazy over here. I'm going crazy like Sunny. He was not going to forget. 5, it's 5. There's 5 of them, damn it. Immediately after he said those words out loud, something changed. It was as though an invisible veil had fallen from his eyes, or rather from his mind. Sunny froze, shock and fear permeating his heart. He was remembering, didn't I see a dream? Yes, of course, he saw Cassie standing over him with panic in her eyes, begging him to remember the number 5. Now, no, wait. Was that a dream? At that time, he believed so, but then he forgot, just as he had forgotten what actually happened on that day when Cassie woke up to tell him something important. It happened on the day they killed the Carapace demon. Back then, all 3 of them were utterly exhausted. After moving away from the corpse of the giant creature and finding a good hiding spot, they fell to the ground and immediately fell asleep. But they didn't stay asleep for long. An hour or 2 later, Sunny... Oh, you're right, they did take a nap. An hour or 2 later, Sunny was shaken awake by Cassie, who was holding him by the shoulders. There was an expression of terror written clearly on her face. Sunny, wake up. Instantly coming back to senses, he jumped to his feet and summoned the Midnight Shard, afraid that they were under attack. However, there was no one around except for the panicked Cassie and worried NEPHIS, who was in a similar pose, her sword raised and ready to strike. Confused, Sunny looked at the blind girl. Cassie, what's the matter? Grabbing him by the shoulders again, she brought her face close and whispered in a begging tone, Sunny, you have to stop it, please. You are the only one who can. You have to stop it? Stop what? He frowned, failing to understand what exactly he was supposed to do. Did she see another vision? Trying to calm her, he said in a measured tone, it's alright, Cassie. Slow down, breathe. Tell us what happened. Start from the beginning. She desperately shook her head. There's no time. I will forget soon. We all but you have to remember. We will all forget soon. What does she mean? Not able to see Sunny's dazed expression, Cassie yelled, you have to remember, Sunny. 5, it's 5. Remember, you have to remember, it's 5. Remember 5. The blind girl was not making any sense. Sunny carefully put his arms around her, feeling how scared she was from her shaking body. All right, Cass, I promise I'll remember 5. See, it's pretty hard to forget. NEPHIS was looking at them with a frown, not neglecting to scan the surroundings for any signs of danger from the time to time. For some reason, Cassie was only talking to Sunny, not paying her any attention. What was it that she thought Sunny could do, but changing start could not? Hearing his answer, the blind girl calmed down a little. However, she was still terrified. Good. Remember, it's 5, you promised. Her voice sounded quieter and quieter, as though she was not sure of what she was saying. Sunny was barely able to discern her mumblings. The most complex of thought, the harder it would be to hold on to it. That's why I can only tell you that this one word, the simplest thing is important. When the right time comes, it might change things. Carefully choosing words, Sunny hesitantly asked, Cassie, can you tell us what happened exactly? Hearing his voice, the blind girl flinched and raised her head to face him. There was so trace of fear in her eyes, but mostly it had been replaced by confusion. Huh? Did something happen? Sunny blinked. Wasn't she the one who woke them up in a panic? Wait, why did she wake us up to begin with? For some reason, he had trouble remembering the details of the past few minutes. The conversation they had just had was already hazing in his memory. I guess I'm still groggy from waking up so abruptly. Lack of sleep affects concentration. You wanted to tell us something. If it had to do with the number 5. Cassie, dude, man, we've been talking about 5 and forgetting so long. I'm like, bro, what is going on here? It had to do with number 5. Cassie raised her eyebrows. 5, white 5. Sunny didn't know what to say. He was going to ask the same question. I have no clue. Perplexed, he looked at NEPHIS, hoping that she would be able to clear the situation. Chang's Star was standing a few steps away with a distracted expression on her face. Sensing his gaze, she stared at him and asked, why do you have your sword out? Sunny glanced at the Midnight Shard and tried to remember what had caused him to summon the memory. I'm not sure. Why did you summon yours? NEPHIS looked down as though noticing the sword in her hands for the first time. An expression of doubt appeared on her face. What's wrong with our heads today? Understanding that it was pointless to accept help from NEPHIS, Sunny sighed and turned back to Cassie. Did you see another vision? The blind girl trembled, her eyes open wide, once again filled with fear. A vision? Yes, I saw a vision, an awful, awful vision. What did you see? She was silent for a few moments, trying to remember. A deep frown appeared on her face. Finally, Cassie said quietly, I saw a mountain of corpses. Countless bodies piled on each other until they formed a blood-soaked hill. And on top of that hill, a tiny black seed was floating in a pool of blood. She grew silent, then continued, that was the past, but I think then I saw the future. A future. It was, or gods, oh gods, we are, we're, ... Her voice trembled as though not daring to say as though not trying to say something out loud. Cassie stopped. Sunny waited for a moment and then carefully asked, we were what? The blind girl turned to him in confusion. What? He scratched the back of his head. What were you just talking? Oh my God, bro. What is going on? Everybody's forgetting everything. And I thought my memory was bad. He scratched the back of his head. What were they just talking about? You were telling us about your vision, I think. Cassie frowned. What vision? Oh my god. To his embarrassment, Sonny wasn't sure either. He just remembered something about the number 5 and a seed. For some reason, he felt as though the number was very important, but why? He had no idea. I forgot. Suddenly, Nephis, who was standing nearby, lowered her hands and dismissed the sword. Then she had been holding something for some reason. Looking at them with a bit of confusion, she hesitantly asked, "Why are you guys awake? We need to rest. Something might get attracted by the demon's corpses, so we'd better return to peak condition as soon as possible." Distracted and already forgetting about the conversation with Cassie, Sunny blinked a couple of times and shrugged and decided to go back to sleep. None of this made sense anyways. Exactly. They were probably struck dumb by exhaustion. He felt so tired. A few hours later, when Shadow noticed a winged creature circling around the island, he awoke again. But this time, the memory Cassie's warning was so fragmented and hazy that it seemed like a strange dream, but the seed was already planted deep into his subconscious. A seed, you say? And now that it had blossomed, Cindy was finally able to fight through the haze of oblivion and remember. Oh my god, finally. What the fuck is it, man? This is the second stream where everybody's forgetting everything. What is going on, damn it? Chapter 85 is called One Step at a Time. Sitting inside of the vile, thieving bird nest, Sunny frowned and clenched his fist. Something unnatural was happening to them ever since they came to the Ashen Barrel. Now that he had remembered Cassie's warning, it was apparent that their minds were affected and making them forgetful and easily distracted. Even now that he knew about it, Sunny thinking straight was strangely hard. It took all of his will just to keep the knowledge of the anomaly in his memories. The events of these past few days were still hazy. Remembering something else, Sunny closed his eyes in frustration. Had they really spent mere days on the island, the number of shadow fragments he had received from eating soul tree fruits suggested otherwise. It was quite possible that as much as a whole month had passed since the first time they ate them, and their minds were corroded a bit more with every day that passed. Pretty soon, there would be nothing left of them at all, only empty shells, walking around wearing their faces. Sunny face paled. With a growing feeling of dread, he realized that there was large gaps in his memory. He could not remember how they got to the Ashen Barrel and where they were going. Other things, too, were unclear and blurry. Stay calm. Despite how compromised his memory was, there were still ways to understand what was going on and then maybe undo it. After all, he was able to remember Cassie's warning. That meant that their memories were not gone, just obstructed. First step is to resist the impulse to forget everything again. Not succumbing to the constant pull of his mind was not an easy task, but he was able to manage at least that for now. Second step, try to understand the reason why you were able to remember these things. When Cassie begged him to remember the number 5, she must have already known that he would receive a new attribute. He had noticed the existence of the mysterious 5th attribute, and as a result, we triggered the frightening revelation. However, when he was able to not forget about the existence of the 5th attribute altogether, what made him so special, Cassie had even said that he was the only one who could do it. Why him and not Shinga Star? Sunny massaged his temples, then a sudden realization came to him. Doubtless. One of the enhancements of the Puppeteer's Shroud was providing him with a small amount of resistance. How the fuck did I just forget about that? We can be using that. One of the enhancements of the Puppeteer's Shroud was providing him with a small amount of the resistance against mind attacks. That's why he was slightly less susceptible to frightening forgetfulness that infected them on the Ashen Barrel. That was the reason why he had been the last one to agree to eat the miraculous fruit, why he had often felt the things were wrong. He was also the only one who managed to remember Cassie's warning, even if it took him a long time. True. Okay. Cassie knew about the Puppeteer's Shroud, and that's why she had chosen him instead of Nephis. Smart girl. So their warp state was a result of a mind attack, but who could attack them on this desolate answer? The answer was pretty obvious. That damn tree. Looking down, Sunny felt cold sweat running down his back. Though Soul Tree was in fact a colossal, ancient, and utterly horrifying nightmare creature. If he was right, then its power had to be simply unimaginable. He was afraid to even think about what its rank and class were. No wonder it was able to drain a whole area of the Crimson Labyrinth of all life. No wonder it was able to survive and thrive in this hellish place. Of all the horrors in this hell, it might have been the most terrifying. Finally, Sunny knew the reason why no other nightmare creatures dared to approach the Ashen Barrel. Even monsters were afraid of the Soul Tree, except for equally harrowing things that dwelled beneath the waves of the deep, dark sea. There was no way for them to destroy it. The soul tree was just too big, old, and powerful. For a moment, Sunny entertained the idea of setting it on fire. I think that's a good idea, but quickly abandoned it. He would need a volcanic eruption or some sort of divine intervention to burn the Colossus down. So what to do? After thinking for some time, Sunny decided not to be hasty and move forward one step at a time. First, he had to know the exact situation with his attributes. Summoning the runes, he tried once again to read the description of the hidden 5th attribute. The result was the same. He knew it was there, but could not remember what it was, no matter how much he tried. Figures. Confirming that, but like, if he has the attribute, wouldn't he be able to read it? Like, why is it that he can't read it? Confirming that it was still impossible for him to solve the mystery of his own, Sunny moved his attention to the Mark of Divinity. New runes appeared under this description. Mark of Divinity, attribute description. You bear a faint scent of divinity, as though someone briefly touched by it once a long time ago. What the fuck does that mean? Mark of Divinity is ready to... We're evolving. So instead of faint, now it's a strong scent of divinity. Mark of Divinity is ready to evolve. Proceeded. Not wasting any time, Sunny said yes. Immediately, the name of the description, the attribute changed. The new rune said, attribute rank, Spark of Divinity. So we went from Mark to Spark. Spark of Divinity, attribute description. Every fire starts from a spark. So we are going to burn the tree. Somewhere deep within your soul, a radiant spark shines with divine light. He didn't feel any changes within himself. It seemed as though the question of whether or not he wanted to proceed was just a formally, and the attribute already evolved back when he had consumed the drop of Ichor. Somebody corrected me in the comments in the last year. I'm sorry I didn't memorize the new pronunciation. Ichior? Ichior. I think it was like that. My affiliation to divinity had increased. I'm sorry. I will go back and double check the pronunciation after the stream or after this video. My affiliation to divinity has increased. Neat. Although I'm not sure how it might be useful. Was the spark of divinity the reason why he was now able to see the inner workings of the memories, as well as some other stuff like the shadows in his soul sea? If so, was it a universal trait of all awakened within the high divine affiliation, or just his? For some reason, Sunny felt that it was the latter option. He had received the drop of Ichor from... Oh man, this word is coming up a lot, huh? He had received the drop of Ichor from a being called Weaver, and then became able to see the strings that were weaved through the memories, giving them their unique qualities. It wasn't hard to see the connection. If it was true, did it mean that there were different kinds of divinity, and he inherited a small amount of a very special kind of divinity? Was even a deity, even God he had heard about? Oh my god, I cannot read, bro. Oh my god, my nose. 1 sec. Oh man, it hurts. Like, my head throbs. Like, when I cough, man, that shit hurts. Oh man. Every god he had heard about was named in a similar fashion. There was Shadow God, War God. Well, that's it. He had never heard the names of any other gods. However, Weaver's name was different. Maybe Weaver was not a deity at all. Maybe he, she, or it was actually one of the unknown. Suddenly he shook his head, feeling like he had almost allowed himself to get distracted and release the hold of his memories. He could not allow himself to go on... Did I lose one place? I fucking lost my... Oh, he cannot allow himself to go on tangents now. Concentrating, he looked at his new attributes. Bloodweave. Bloodweave attribute description. You have inherited a part of Weaver's forbidden lineage. What? Your blood has been altered and imbued with odd tenacity? What does that mean? So he would be less likely to bleed out in the future. That was a... What? He'd be very less likely to bleed out in the future. That was a very nice enhancement. However, it did not help Sunny with his current situation. It was time for the next step. It was early in the morning when Sunny descended from the soul tree. However, he did not bring any fruit with him. Walking over to the sleeping Cassie, he took her by the shoulders and gently shook her awake. The irony of how the situation mirrored the one where Cassie had told Sunny to remember the number 5 was not lost on him. The blind girl slowly came to her senses and turned to face him with sleepy, confused expression. Sunny, why are you up so early? He hesitated, then said with a friendly smile, trying very hard to act as though everything was alright. Actually, I didn't sleep at all last night. Cassie frowned. Luckily, she could not see the sorry state he was in, nor the dried blood on his face. Really, why? He shrugged. I decided to climb the soul tree and search for some fruits, but they were not very important. Hey, your aspect ability allows you to see other people's attributes, right? She nodded, still confused. Yes, you know this. Why? Sunny lingered, then asked in a carefree tone, can you take a look at mine now? That's really good. Sunny's thought process was very simple. Honestly, in this state he was in, complex ideas that went up against Sultry's indoctrination were almost impossible to hold onto. He was already at his limits, trying to remember what had happened in the giant nest. On his way down, Sunny had to bite himself several times, leaving bloody marks on his hands. Sharp pain cleared his mind for a few moments and gave him temporary relief from the constant pull of forgetfulness. Coincidentally, he was already noticing the effects of the blood weave was exerting on him. The bites in the blood for a short while, quickly turning into scabs. The speed of coagulation of his blood was clearly enhanced. He also felt more energetic. This endurance was substantially better than it had been before, which made sense. The human body was a system where every part affected by other. I'm the exact opposite, man. If I get a cut, that scab is on my body for like months, bro. My scabs take so long to heal. A comprehensive improvement of one of these parts, especially one as important as blood, had to lead to a chain reaction from lesser improvements throughout the system. It seemed that he had severely underestimated the importance of his new attribute. Focus, idiot, no tangents. Gritting his teeth, Sunny concentrated on his task. He wanted to use Cassie's aspect ability to learn the truth of the hidden attribute. Her sight was different from his. Sunny could only see the information provided by the runes because it was a default function of the spell. He simply accessed the information with his mind. Cassie's sight, however, came from her aspect. Thus, even if their minds were compromised, it should not have affected her ability to see other people's attributes. She also had a high affinity to revelations and fate, so there was a high chance that Cassie would be able to success where he had failed. Finally, reaching the ground, Sunny woke up the blind girl and, after a short conversation, mentioned the attributes. Then he carefully asked, "Can you take a look at mine?" Cassie was visibly confused by his question. "Can you do it yourself?" Sunny smiled. "I can, but I think you'll be surprised when you see them." The blind girl hesitated, then shrugged. "Alright, but if it turns out that you woke me up for nothing, I'll be pretty upset." Yeah, probably. "That was not very nice of you." She turned to face him, froze for a moment as though staring at him in the eyes. Fated child of shadow, spark of divinity. Wait, wasn't it mark of divinity? Huh. I must have remembered wrong. Nope. Stopping for a second, Cassie shyly covered her mouth when her small hand yawned. My memory has not been too good lately. Too much rest, I guess. When was I? Oh yes, blood weave. Huh. Where did this come from? Sunny forced a chuckle. This thing from an egg? Anyways, is there something else? Cassie blinked a couple of times. An egg? Well, if you say so. Doesn't ask any more questions. Usually, an appearance of a new attribute was not something one would gloss over. In the state she was in, Cassie's attention span was severely reduced and her mental capacity was clouded. She just focused for a second and then forgot all about the discrepancy. Sunny's heart, meanwhile, was beating like it was going to explode. When a fake smile froze on his face, he waited for the blind girl's next words. They were going to decide whether or not he would be able to get to the bottom of things, and therefore find a way to rise from that bottom. With an absent-minded smile, Cassie said, "My mom makes the best eggs." What were we talking about? Right, your attributes. The last one is enthralled. Wait, where did this? Knowing that there was very little time, Sunny hurriedly asked the description. What does the description say? A bit of tension sipped into his voice. Startled by the intensity, Cassie didn't ask the same question again and simply said, "You've been mesmerized by the ancient fiend soul." Oh, the fucking tree. You've been mesmerized by the ancient fiend soul devouring tree and are being turned into its thrall. Oh, wait, a thrall is, those tree-like entities, right? Is that what it is? You're being turned into a thrall. Once the process is complete, there will be no escape. As soon as Sunny heard of these words, it was as though heavy chains fell from his mind. Suddenly, his memories returned into its avalanche, making him stagger, his eyes open wide. Only now that he had fully recovered his memory did Sunny realize to the extent which its mental state was warped, how much of his true self was gone. Oh my god, man, my nose. How close he came to being completely obliterated without even knowing that it's a terrible monster was slowly devouring his mind. An extreme feeling of terror filled his heart. For a few moments, Sunny lost the ability to speak, covered in cold sweat and shaking. Calm down, calm down. It didn't happen. You stopped it. You're back. It didn't eat you. Slowly, he was able to get a grip of his feelings and achieve some semblance of composure. He came very close to the edge, but did not take the last step. He was still himself. It wasn't over yet. They still had a chance. Looking at Cassie, Sunny slowly exhaled and said, "Thank you." The blind girl smiled and raised his eyebrows. For what? She had already forgotten all about she literally forgot. She had already forgotten all about the conversation. Sunny was free from being mesmerized by the soul devourer I dropped my headphones. But Cassie was not. Her memory, mind, and thinking were still compromised, turning worse and worse as they spoke. A pained smile appeared on Sunny's face, struggling to keep his tone light and cheerful. He said, "From helping me out just now, sorry about waking you up so early. Go back to sleep. I'll take it from here." Cassie hesitated for a few moments, then got distracted and forgot that he was there at all. Yawning, the blind girl laid down and covered herself with her cloak. Soon she was asleep, happy and blissfully ignorant of the fact that her days were numbered. Sunny watched her for a while with a grim expression on his face. Finally, he turned and walked away. "Over my dead body." Okay, I am kind of struggling over here. My nose is still congested and ready, and every time I cough, I get this nasty headache. So I'm gonna just keep it short today, 30 chapters. I'll stream tomorrow in the afternoon. I'll try and stream like around maybe 6 or 7 p.m. I'll take a little slow when I get back, kind of ease myself into it, and then kind of up myself up to read the volume 1 finale, since we said the finale is 95. So we'll have to read 87, 8, 9, 90, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll knock out 9 chapters tomorrow. So it should be a good 2-hour stream roughly. So I'm gonna let you guys go. We'll keep it nice and short. We'll be back tomorrow, Wednesday. So by the time this video is up, on December 10th, on Wednesday between 6 to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I don't know what that is in all the other time zones. I'd probably leave that to you guys to convert it. Whatever time zone 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is for you guys, December 10th, we'll be reading the finale of Volume 1. I know it's not the finale of Forgotten Shores, but should be the finale of this whole segment in the Ashen Barrows. And I assume it might end with us getting to the castle, so we'll see what happens here. But keep it nice, short, sweet. Sorry, I feel like I'm circling over here. I'm going in laps. I feel like now I'm being forgetful over here. Like, what was I talking about? Keep it short, sweet, 30 minutes. Coming back December 10th, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for the finale. We're going to be knocking out the last 9 chapters of Volume 1, and we're going to read until chapter 95, and we should be good. Unless I get more sicker, which I probably won't. Fever went away. Constant coughing went away. I still get it a little bit, slight pain here and there, but we're mostly recovered. We're like 90%, 80% recovered, so we're good. We have finally made it to the toe end. Short and sweet again. See you guys tomorrow, Wednesday. Later, guys. And sorry again. Sorry. Wait, no, bad outro. Sorry again. There's a lot of pausing. Ellie was barking a lot. I was stuttering all over the place. It's just bad right now. Oh my god. But we're good. We should be back on track. I've been saying we should be back on track for 2 weeks, but we should be back on track. Apologies again. Later, guys.